Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we have something really exciting for you. You'll be learning the brand new, overpowered meta routes in the jungle. After painstakingly going through hundreds of different replays of pro players in every single region, we've identified the most popular and effective routes these challenger players are using to destroy solo queue. Before we jump into it, we first need to establish what's changed in the jungle that's caused these new jungle paths to emerge. Essentially, there are two changes to the jungle camps that every jungler needs to be aware of in order to understand the new routes. First is how the small jungle camps now respawn 30 seconds faster, from 2 minutes and 30 seconds down to 2 minutes. Because of this, Riot has reduced the golden experience all of the small jungle camps give. However, while doing this, they also adjusted the value of both of the jungle quadrants. For those unaware, last season the red side jungle was significantly more valuable than the blue side jungle. If you were to clear your Krugs and Raptors, it would earn you 362 experience and 237 gold. Compare this to your blue side jungle, where if you were to clear your Gromp and Wolves, you would earn 230 experience and 170 gold. This made the red side jungle more profitable as it was worth an extra 132 experience and 67 gold. Now, this is no longer the case, and it's changed, as Riot nerfed the amount of golden experience Krugs give while buffing the golden experience Gromp gives. What this means is that your red side jungle is now only worth 25 experience and 20 gold more than your blue side jungle. This has caused the red side jungle to be significantly less profitable than it used to be compared to your blue side jungle, and now they're much closer to being even in value. The second thing you need to be aware of is how you can hit level 3 off of 3 camps in both jungle quadrants. Before, the only way to hit level 3 off of 3 camps was to incorporate your Krugs into your opening route since they gave so much experience. An example of this would be taking red, Krugs, and Raptors. This would cause you to hit level 3. Now, you can still hit level 3 using Krugs just like before, but they've buffed the Gromp enough that you can also hit level 3 on that side of the map. An example of this would be taking your Blue, Gromp, and Wolves. This would cause you to hit level 3, which wasn't possible before. As you can imagine, this has also helped in making your blue side jungle more valuable of a starting location compared to the last season. So what do all these changes mean? Well, before, starting at your red and taking your Krugs and Raptors were so much more profitable than your blue side jungle that it became the dominant route that nearly every jungler took. This is no longer the case, so starting at your blue is just as viable as starting at your red. This means junglers can be much more flexible with their starting locations and the routes that they choose to do afterwards. Alright, enough theory. Let's show you exactly what we mean by this with the new meta routes. We'll be dividing these routes into two categories: routes where you're starting at your blue and routes where you're starting at your red. We'll begin with when you start at your blue, as this is where things have changed the most. So let's hop into a replay of Korean pro player Peanut showing off the new route. You start at your blue, then take your Gromp, then your Wolves, then your red. You then look to gank before the nearby scuttle spawns, and afterwards you take the scuttle. So let's break down the logic behind this route. After taking your blue, you have to take your Gromp. This is because the Gromp is worth so much more golden experience now. Additionally, it's what will unlock your ability to hit level 3 off of 3 camps instead of the usual 4. Next, you take your Wolves. The idea behind taking your Wolves here is that you're full clearing one entire quadrant of your jungle. This means that 2 minutes from now, both your Gromp and Wolves will have respawned and will be a higher level and give more experience. This is very efficient, since when you come back to the side of the map later on to clear your Gromp, you can quickly clear your Wolves after, both giving you a big boost in experience. After this, we take our red. This way our champion will have double buffs, and the red buff is extremely valuable in early ganks and fights since it applies a slow on your auto attacks and a burn for more damage. At this point, we look to gank since we're waiting for the nearby scuttle to spawn, and by ganking a lane close to the scuttle, it can help secure lane priority. With this lane priority, your teammates can move to help secure the scuttle if the enemy jungler tries to contest it. After the gank, you then take the nearby scuttle. Remember, all of your jungle camps were nerfed in golden experience, but scuttles stayed the same, making them a bit more valuable than before. So this is the new standard blue side route for nearly all junglers. The one exception is farming junglers. Champions like Karthus, Master Yi, and Olaf will look to full clear their jungle instead, taking advantage of their fast clear speed and the new shorter respawn timers on the camps. Now, things aren't as simple as executing this one route every single game though. Earlier, we mentioned how the new jungle is much more flexible, and you're about to see what we mean by that. In this replay, we have a challenger EU West Rek'Sai facing the pro player Broxah on Lee Sin. Rek'Sai is starting at his blue and will look to execute the route we just went over. He does blue, and then Gromp. Remember, Gromp is mandatory since it gives so much more golden experience and unlocks our ability to hit level 3 faster. However, he then skips his Wolves and moves straight to his red. Why is this? Well, this is how you can be flexible now with your route. Let's go back to when Rek'Sai first started at his blue. As a jungler, you always want to check the side lanes to see who appears late, as this indicates they're giving a leash to the enemy jungler. In this case, the enemy bot lane shows early, while top lane is missing. This indicates that the enemy Lee Sin is starting at his red. This means that both Rek'Sai and Lee Sin are starting on the same side of the map and will be pathing towards the bot side of the map together. So Rek'Sai makes a new adjustment. He skips his wolves and heads straight to his red. This way, he'll still hit level 3 and have double buffs, but he'll get to the bottom side of the map before Lee Sin. By making this adjustment, he can then gank before Lee Sin, and getting the first gank off can be extremely valuable when two early game junglers face each other and start on the same side of the map. That's not all though. You can even make another adjustment to this route. In this replay, we have pro player Maxlore playing Elise against Shyvana. He starts at his blue, looking to execute the standard route we taught you, taking Gromp, Wolves, red, then looking to gank. So Maxlore does his Gromp next. Since as we mentioned, it's mandatory, but unlike the last replay, he chooses to take his Wolves instead of skipping them. Why is this? Well, let's go back to when Elise started at her blue and check the side lanes. The enemy top shows early, while bot is missing. This indicates the enemy Shyvana is getting a leash at her red. Just like the last game, both junglers are starting on the same side of the map. So why did Maxlore choose to take his Wolves instead of skipping them to get to the top side of the map faster? Well, the secret is that he's against Shyvana jungle, a jungler that is weak early and well known to look to full clear in her opening route. So Elise knows that there's no rush to the top side of the map since it's highly likely the enemy Shyvana will be full clearing her jungle. This is why Maxlore takes his Wolves as normal instead of skipping them. However, then shortly after, instead of taking his red, which would normally be the next step in the route, Elise looks to gank mid. So what's going on here? Well, you have to remember, when you take your blue, Gromp, and Wolves, you'll hit level 3 now, whereas before you would have still been level 2. With level 3 unlocked, Elise now has access to all 3 of her abilities and can look to gank. As Elise transitions to take her red, she checks the state of her lanes, and in doing so, she sees that Ryze is not only low on health mid, but if we look at the minion wave, we can see how Ryze has more minions than Camille, meaning it's pushing towards Camille. Also, take note of how Ryze and Camille are still level 2, while Elise is level 3. This is another advantage that this new route unlocks, hitting level 3 so fast. So Elise flash cocoons and lands a kill on Ryze, that she otherwise would have missed if she didn't make that adjustment in her opening route. Before we move on to the red side jungle routes, let's quickly recap. The new standard route when starting at your blue is blue, Gromp, Wolves, into red. You then look to gank, and then take the nearby scuttle when it spawns. However, this route is highly flexible. This first starts when you take your Gromp, as at this point you can choose to skip your Wolves and head straight to your red. The benefit to doing this is that you can get to the other side of the map much faster. An example of when this can be done is if the enemy jungler started on the same side of the map as you and you want to get the first gank off before them. However, if you didn't skip your Wolves and instead did blue, Gromp, Wolves, then it's at this point you can make another adjustment. Check to see if there's a gank available in mid lane or on the other side lane that's near your red buff. If there is, then you can delay taking your red buff and look to gank them instead. The reason why you can do this now is you can hit level 3 off of blue, Gromp, and Wolves, which makes your ganks far more powerful since you'll have access to all 3 of your abilities and be level 3. Now, moving on to your red side jungle. In terms of your standard route, it's still going to be red, Krugs, into Raptors. It's at this point you can make several choices. The most standard follow-up is to take your blue into the nearby scuttle and then look to gank. However, there are 2 main variations to this route. First is when you take your red, Krugs, and Raptors. You can look to transition gank mid with your level 3 power spike if a gank is available. This can then be followed up with a gank on the side lane taking the path behind the enemy's red buff to avoid wards, or just moving to secure your blue buff. The other variation is when you do red, Krugs, and Raptors, and the enemy jungler started at his red. When this is the case, you have the option of ganking the nearby side lane. Although this leaves your blue side jungle open to being invaded, since the enemy jungler started on the opposite side as you, it means his own blue side jungle will also be alive. You can then invade his blue side jungle after the gank and look to split the map in half. All of these routes we've actually covered before and have detailed guides on, so if you want to learn more about them, check out our jungle course on meta routes. That being said, there's one new route that has become viable on the new patch. That's when you do red, then head straight to your blue, and then take your Gromp. Since your Gromp gives so much more experience, you'll hit level 3 off of this and have double buffs. The main benefit to this route is that it puts you on the opposite side of the map with level 3 significantly faster than when you do red, Krugs, and Raptors. For example, in this replay, we can see a challenger player take red, blue, and then Gromp, putting him on the top side of the map extremely fast while still being level 3 with double buffs. He then uses this increased speed to time a dive on top lane as a wave crashes. Look at how the enemy Vladimir is still level 1, making it impossible for Vladimir to survive against this. Now, the point of this route isn't to do some coordinated next level dive on the opponent, but rather how to execute a gank on the opposite side of the map you started on much faster than usual. So let's quickly recap the red side jungle routes. Taking your red, Krugs, and Raptors is still going to be the default meta path, as you'll hit level 3 off of 3 camps while making sure that entire quadrant of your jungle will respawn together, making for more efficient experience. After taking your Raptors, you have 3 choices. First, head to your blue as normal, then secure the nearby scuttle. Second is more aggressive. Transition gank mid into a possible gank on the sideline, otherwise take your blue after. Third is if the enemy jungler started on the opposite side of the map. You can gank the nearby sideline and then look to invade the enemy's blue and split the map in half. With all this being said, there's still one main alternative to taking your red, Krugs, and Raptors, and that's to take your red, blue into Gromp. This is done if you need to get to the opposite side of the map faster while still hitting level 3 and securing double buffs. Awesome, so you're now equipped with starting routes for when you start at your blue or your red, but many of you are probably wondering, how do I decide which buff to start on? As you can see with these routes, we're most often transitioning to the opposite side that we're starting on. So if we're starting at our blue, we'll be pathing towards our red. And if we start at our red, we'll be pathing towards our blue. This means when deciding what buff to start at, you'll decide it based off of which side lane you want to gank. For example, let's say you're on the blue team and in top lane you have two tanks facing each other, let's say Sion against Ornn. Not exactly an important lane you need to influence as a jungler. However, in bot lane, you have Lucian Leona against Tristana Alistar. This is a highly aggressive, volatile bot lane. As such, we'd want to start at our blue and path towards the bot side of the map, looking to influence that volatile bot lane. Alright, that's going to do it for this guide. Keep in mind, this is just the start of the preseason and there's a ton more for us to cover that we couldn't possibly fit into just one video. So stay tuned, as each week we'll be unraveling all the new cutting-edge strategies you won't find anywhere else. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and as always, good luck and have fun on Summoner's Rift.